Okay, let's dive right into this explainer and crack open the file on what has got to be one of the absolute most chilling maritime cold cases in history. We're looking at a 150-year-old puzzle that completely defies logic. So grab your detective hats, folks, because we aren't just recounting a dusty old story today. We are actively reopening the investigation into the Mary Celeste to look at the facts, the evidence, and the eerie unknowns. Seriously, think about it. What actually happens when a ship is found in perfect condition, but every single person is just gone? It completely goes against our basic instincts, right? Normally, if a ship is abandoned, you're looking at a massive catastrophe, like a roaring storm, a breached hull, an unstoppable fire. But today, we're reopening history's ultimate missing persons case to investigate exactly that. We're going to treat this like the active cold case it is, using the surviving forensic evidence to try and make sense of the totally inexplicable. Section 1, The Eerie Discovery. Let's head back to December 1872. Our investigation kicks off way out in the vast, totally unforgiving expanse of the mid-Atlantic Ocean. Now picture the open water in the late 19th century. There's no radar, no GPS, just sailors relying on the stars and the wind. The crew of a British vessel called the Dei Gratia spots something super weird on the horizon. It's a ship, and it's just drifting, completely aimlessly. It's erratic, almost ghost-like, just caught in the ocean currents without a guiding hand at the helm. As they pull up closer, they can finally read the name painted right there on the hull. That drifting vessel was the Mary Celeste. Now, to the guys on the Dei Gratia, it probably just looked like a fellow ship needing some routine assistance. But the reality? It was a perfectly seaworthy vessel floating out there silently, waiting to surrender a truly terrifying and deeply unsettling secret. This was basically the calm before history's ultimate maritime riddle. Section 2. Securing the crime scene. Let's log the evidence. Whenever investigators approach a crime scene, the first thing they look for is disruption. But stepping onto this deck, the boarding party found an eerie, unsettling perfection. Look at the facts here. Step 1. The sails were still unfurled. That means the ship was fully rigged and ready to sail, not battened down for some impending disaster. Step 2. The cargo was completely intact. Literally nothing was looted or tossed overboard to lighten the load in a panic. And step 3, and honestly this is the most chilling forensic detail to me, there was food left right out in the kitchen. It's a snapshot of daily life, frozen in time. It practically screams that the crew was just there moments before the boarding party arrived. Moving right along to Section 3, the missing persons file, vanished without a trace. Despite how pristine the ship was, we aren't just looking at a missing crew here. Our victimology reveals we are actually looking at a missing family. Pulling the files we have: Captain Benjamin Briggs, who was a highly experienced, respected mariner, his wife, who was traveling right alongside him, their young daughter, and, of course, the entire crew of seasoned sailors. Every single one of them vanished. The human element is absolutely crucial here. These were hardcore professionals who knew the sea intimately, yet they completely abandoned a perfectly safe environment. And this right here brings us to the absolute core paradox of our investigation. The boarding crew found zero signs of a struggle. No blood, no broken weapons, and crucially, no evidence of a severe storm that could have washed people overboard. The ship was structurally sound. But the lifeboat was entirely missing. Think about that for a second. If there was no violence and the weather was fine, why on earth would a veteran captain put his family into a tiny, vulnerable lifeboat and intentionally abandon a seaworthy ship? It literally defies all rational maritime logic. Which brings us to Section 4, the Detectives Board. Time to test the hypotheses. All right, let's run the most popular theories against the cold hard facts of our crime scene, because traditional explanations completely fall flat here. Take the first theory, pirate attacks. We can firmly stamp this as highly unlikely. Why? Because the cargo remained totally undisturbed. Pirates rob ships. They don't just leave a fortune in valuable goods untouched and abduct a whole crew without a single fight. Okay, next up, sea monsters. Again, no way. There was absolutely zero structural damage to the hull and not a single sign of a physical struggle on deck. Finally, we have supernatural forces. Obviously, the likelihood here is technically unknown, but the very fact that this theory even makes it onto our board just shows how insanely baffling this disappearance truly is. When the physical evidence makes zero sense, human imagination just rushes in to fill the gap.
Section 5. The Ultimate Cold Case. An Unsolved Mystery. Even after well over a century of intense digging by authorities, historians, and amateur sleuths alike, the actual fate of the Mary Celeste's crew remains completely unsolved. Because of this massive legacy, and frankly, the sheer lack of any rational explanation that fits our timeline, the Mary Celeste has basically become the defining example of a ghost ship. A vessel found drifting at sea without its crew, completely shrouded in mystery. It just sails on in our collective memory, an empty ship guarding an unbreakable secret.
So, as we close the file on today's explainer, I really want to leave you with this one provocative thought. If there was absolutely no danger, why did the crew of the Mary Celeste willingly step off that ship and into oblivion? Just imagine the psychological state, the sheer terror, or maybe some massive tragic misunderstanding that had to happen to make stepping into a tiny rowboat in the middle of the ocean seem safer than staying on a perfectly intact ship. Think about it, a perfectly safe ship, an empty ocean, and a family that simply vanished into thin air. Thank you so much for joining me on this investigation. Keep questioning the facts and never stop exploring the mysteries around us.